Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hey, this is Jeff Johnson, and
this is Claude Faitier. I'm driving around in the car. I'm just gonna try to find a place to park, but
he's gonna be safe. But he's doing what we do.
It's gonna be fine.
He's doing what we do because we always talk about our favorite topic.
We talk about movies. I'm probably not gonna have as much eye contact, but I can still talk and yeah. So,
and we talk about them all the time, whether we're driving or whether we're sneaking away from work to say, Claude, did you hear about that? So today we're talking about the fact that for family movie night, the rest of my family, two-fifths of my family hadn't seen it yet, but the rest of my family watched, and so we watched that together, Harriet. I kicked off talking about how I thought not only was it a great film, but that, Claude and I talk about trailers all the time, that trailers are never as good as they really should be, and that maybe this should have been an example of where the trailer should have explained to people how triumphant the movie Harriet was. Especially for our people, for our Black people who ain't trying to hear no sad, crying Black slave story, who don't want to be depressed, who have too much stress in their life and they don't want to go to a movie theater and they just want to be entertained. I've heard sophisticated movie critics say they just want to be entertained and don't want to see a Black tragedy. Seriously? Like what's those two symbols with the two faces, the smiley face and the sad face? Comedy and tragedy, and so a Black person just like, okay, just a comedy. You don't want to see any art about your people. That's a tragedy. Seriously. But yeah,
it's not just the two choices; they're intertwined. They're one feeds the other.
Of course they are.
Anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
But yet we have so many people who just don't want to do it. So therefore they won't work starting phase. And I reminded Claude of the funny but true story that somebody's like, I ain't gonna go see the Solomon Northup story. I said, you mean 12 years a slave? Yeah, I can't go see that, and I can't see no slave story. I said, on the 13th year, he's all right. You know that, right? Oh, was he? Yeah. It's called 12 Years a Slave. Hang in there. Hang in there. Okay? So anyway, that part we covered off camera. About maybe, had the trailer made more clear about how triumphant her story is and how triumphantly it's portrayed in this film. It is not a film to make you all sad and depressed, but it's about the indomitable spirit of a woman. And, spoiler alert, look up your history. Harriet lived to 91. 91. Praise God. She's one of those examples where the true hero gets to live a long, full life. So, you don't have to have that anxiety when you're watching the film. And it's kind of superheroic. But Claude, what you were going on the point was you were trying to take a counterpoint. You can say, hear me, you're trying to make a counterpoint about understanding about how some African-American men didn't like the fictionalized character that they added to the story, who they put in a fictionalized character and they happened to not portray Black men well. I was saying the fact that fictionalized characters in films that are historic films are perfectly fine. That's what you use to make the film entertaining. And that, from my point of view, people who get really uptight about them adding fictionalized characters, go read a book. Watch the movie, you get intrigued about the real life character, and then you take your behind to the library and get a book, or you watch a PBS documentary, which I watched me a whole bunch of boring PBS documentaries because it enlightens my mind, right? But it's not as entertaining as what they do, for example, in this movie, and they do in a lot of movies like this. They'll make like a combination of characters, right? They'll take three people in real life who are important to the story that you're covering, and they'll make them one person, right?
Composite.
The composite of a fatherly figure who also gave them a job and provided security in their life. Real people in real life who did that. They just broke into one person and they put that person in the film. That is perfectly fine from my perspective. That is not some violation. But anyway, your point though was that some folks didn't like that this fictionalized character that was added to this character was a big black buck slave trader.
He was a slave hunter, and it goes into a long and it's a reaction to a couple of things. It's a reaction because I think to a certain degree, if you're seeing a Hollywood movie that's about someone, of course you want have a significant element of the truth in there, and there's probably going to be some changes, but having a male character who's there, beating up African American women and sabotaging, the efforts for people to get free. People have gotten sick and tired of that, of that image. Certain people. To me, it depends on how it's done. I wasn't, necessarily offended by the fact that he was in the Harriet Tubman movie. I was a little disappointed because I was saying that her story is so fascinating. Why would they need to do something like that? And if you're going to make up a composite character, why does it, to a certain degree, why does it have to be, to be the buck? And I know about this because I caught part of a video where the producers were talking in an auditorium, and there were these people who were there specifically, who came from the audience, basically ambushed them about that issue. And I didn't know that Bigger Long was a complete fabrication until they had mentioned it. Now, is it enough for me to say boo hoo, I don't want to necessarily see the movie? No, because I saw what the movie in essence was trying to do. It was a little disappointing, all the all the amazing stuff that she did, that they had to come up with this trope. But you have people who are, to a certain degree, sick and tired of Hollywood, shitting on black men, or that's the way they would see it.
Agreed. Hollywood has shit on black men, and I get that, but that doesn't, the Big Long character doesn't impact me, not even a little bit. Not at all, not even one small bit, and I'll tell you why. They filled this movie full of secondary, if you will, non-primary characters who were black men and who were heroic, and they gave you one dog. In fact, they gave you one who was bad, who turned and became her sidekick. She was Batman, and they gave her a Robin. What I would composite to you, and again, it's you plural, not you Claude, is that first off, we men collectively can only come from perspective of a male perspective, and you and I can only come from a black man's perspective. That's thing one. So therefore, we can only be so feminist, and that's as far as we can go, right?
That's right.
And what I would suggest to you is that what I would suggest to you is that certain things we can't even just accept, like the concept I just made forward, that Harriet Tubman is Batman in this movie, and they gave her a Robin, a male Robin. Now, a whole lot of people aren't going to accept the heroic superhero nature of her as portrayed in this film, because she for sure was that. She for sure was that. If you went back and went line for line, or if we recast it, or if we put Christian Bale in the role, the total perspective would change about how this was more of a superhero movie than it was a historical black woman who gets as a slave and she can overcome it crime. Now, I'll get back to your main point. The main point is you get one fictionalized character who's a composite of a black who's dastardly and involved in helping keep blacks enslaved by being a slave hunter. They gave him another one who was like that and had him converted by our hero, by watching our hero in action and her connection with God, that he's converted and becomes her faithful sidekick. That adds to the power of our characters. So you only get one character, one villain. And by the way, usually a villain is a primary villain and their henchmen, right? I'm just saying, think of it as a film. You get a primary villain and a henchman, right? There's the big boss, and then there's the big boss is number one. That's what you get. That's what you get in the film. If it's a compelling, good story, there's the big boss, and he has like a super strong sidekick. And this film at least cast somebody black in that. They could have just cast somebody white, and that would be one more white character. They cast somebody black, and so we're mad about it from the black thing. But another way of looking at it is that's one more black male character that got in this story, and there were black folks who were involved in the slave trading. And so they gave us two black characters who were involved in slave trading and turned one of them for the good. That's a bonus.
Yeah, you know, I could see, I could see that. I mean, to me, I'm not gonna say, I believe in the sort of like the bigger good in terms of what the movie was trying to do. uh,
But I want to say one more thing on the black male piece.
Yeah.
If I could just
Okay.
close out the
No,
black
go
male
ahead.
piece.
Okay.
The reason why it doesn't impact me at all. I mean, I hear the argument, and then I'm just saying preponderance of evidence. Preponderance of evidence. One guy, bigger. Another guy turns into a sidekick. Was bad. So if you say, well, there weren't that many black slave traders. Yes, there were black slave traders. Yes, it's fictionalized. They gave you two of them and one turned for good that helped move the story forward. And one of them was the sidekick of the ultimate bad guy. And he goes down in the way that the sidekick, the ultimate bad guy, goes down in movies. Does the sidekick of the bad guy live? We all know the answer to that question. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He does not. In every single story that's compelling and that we enjoy the story, there's a head bad guy and his sidekick, and that one happened to be black. So we got one black guy who's bad and stays bad. One black guy who's bad who turns good. That's good and compelling and exciting to the story and elevates our hero, and it makes it for good filmmaking. And then what I want to add to that, close it out, is it's full of black characters, which were probably composites. A sailor. They show how the tactics of Harriet Tubman get modified, and she starts sailing on boats to go down and get people, and she pretends she's a longshoreman, and she wears men's sailing clothes, and they keep a recurring black character who's a black sailor who helps her with that. That character is a good, positive male, free black man. One. Then of course there's the real life black man who was involved in the slave Underground Railroad, who was the one who was documenting all the slaves. That's a real life character who's another positive black man. They threw in Frederick Douglass and didn't even say his name. They implied it was him. They gave a guy with a Frederick Douglass haircut. They mentioned that Frederick Douglass was around, but they didn't say it. Right there, that dude, that's Frederick Douglass. That was for everybody who knows that awesome parted hair, that frock of hair has to be Frederick Douglass. But Frederick Douglass is thrown in for good measure. We're giving several, almost 6 strong black male characters in this film. And even her husband in real life, there are differing biographies as to what was the true nature of the conflict of her husband who did not come to freedom with him. Like either that they didn't believe politically, like he was already free and he didn't want to leave the South. He wanted her to stay in the South and be free. She was like, no, we busting out of here. That's one biography reads that way. This one tried to make it a love story. They chose to spin it to make him not that evil. And that just make it a heartbreak for her that he stayed in the South and remarried, but he wants her to live on and be free. Now, was it exactly historically correct? Which one of those 2 versions, which I read in 2 different history books, is accurate? They put in the one that for them was more compelling for the motion picture, which makes it a great movie, which is why I'm perfectly fine with it. They made her a woman and they gave her a love story component. In this case, a heartbroken love story that she couldn't go rescue her man. But they didn't make him as much of a villain, is my point. Back to this point about making black men look mad. They gave a softer version of her husband remarrying and not going to freedom with him than what I've seen in other biographies. So if they made one guy, one fictionalized character to composite his evilness, that he's the personification of black slave hunters, which there were, and he's the sidekick of the bad guy, which we have to have in a compelling story, that doesn't impact me at all. Not even a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it did. I was, I pretty much know. I've seen, different movies where I know that to a certain degree, there are going to be certain images that may, piss me off or whatever. When I heard it was fictional, I had to say I was just a little disappointed because the thing about these Hollywood movies that are based on historical figures is that somehow or another, the ones where they fictionalize a story and they put it into a certain trope, I'm not gonna say certain trope, but a certain type of story. I am sort of like that depends, either I can support the movie or I can't. Like, for example, back in our day, they had, Mississippi Burning, which was about the civil rights movement, about the people who disappeared.
Right.
And within that, they had the FBI, basically a good cop, bad cop story. that was placed within its historical context.
Yep.
And so the issue that I sort of had with that is that and this is a slightly different issue, but these I think it's holistically it all fits into the same thing. The issue that I have with that is that in essence a significant event in the civil rights movement sort of became the background for a good cop bad cop story.
Yep.
The movie Rosewood by John Singleton. They had that incident that happened in the town that was destroyed, and Ving Rhames plays. I mean, basically, he's playing a classic Western character.
Yep.
And I don't think it brought and I guess the thing I'm rationalizing with myself is, I was sort of okay with that one. I mean, but at the same time, it was really weird because I can't criticize Mississippi Burning if, in essence, Rosewood did something similar. But I did not know the story of Rosewood, and it brought a story for me to light. And I put Harriet sort of like in the same situation of Rosewood because I had to be honest, I did not read a lot about Harriet Tubman's life, and I think that she, her character is so big that she deserves sort of like a historical story. Learning about this character, just sort of having him there, I wasn't thinking, okay, they're trying to make Black Meg look bad. It wasn't my opinion. I was a little disappointed because I figured that I know that there was a lot of things that she had to do in order to succeed, and I was wondering, did they really need to have, some guy? And I think also people were probably just visceral because they, the actor's played by the guy who plays the beloved Hollywood in what do you call it? He plays Hollywood in what's the name of this show that's on Oprah's network? Ava DuVernay.
The church one?
Not the church one. No. Sugar. Queen Sugar.
Queen Sugar. Okay.
He is the ultimate romantic lead in Queen Sugar. Hello.
You're still good.
And
he's the good guy. He's like super good. He's like the romantic lead. Everybody wants him.
In this movie, we see him beating Janelle Monáe, who's probably one of the nicest, prettiest singers to fucking death.
She is. And
so, I mean, I don't know.
And even she was, again, a composite character, right? She was a composite character. She was like, somebody must have been helping that guy on the Underground Railroad put up the slaves, give them food, and get them jobs. So they made up a fictional character that composited that I'm going to be that one woman who's helping everybody.
Yeah.
Right? But again, my thing is, back to my love of film, and you and I, we're critics. We get critical about a lot of things, and we know we're right. And every time we say it, we're right, and everybody else is wrong. And I'm fine with that. But I'm just saying this is not one of them. That films, I don't want you to make gross, historically incorrect actions, but putting in secondary characters for the reasons we just described, to move it forward, to make it entertaining, that don't fundamentally change the nature of what the historical record is for that character, don't matter, period. Bigger, what's his name, doesn't change Harriet's story. We didn't put in Bigger and that made Harriet somehow into a banker. Or Harriet was this great farmer because the bigger guy was there. Or Harriet is left-handed because Bigger is. No. Him being in this story did not fundamentally change the historical record of Harriet. It just moved our story along. And him beating down Monet, again, who was also a fictional, not composite character, some slave trading dude beat down some black woman and killed them. We just put it in our story so that it would drive the storyline forward. So our characters I mean, we could have picked a million different fictionalized characters and say that slave number 127 was killed right in front of Harriet. But see, even that would be worse, because you're saying, okay, well, that was a compelling moment in her life. The movie is claiming that this was a compelling moment in her life with two totally fictionalized characters. Then you could have an argument. But just an argument about a black slave trader doing something, and therefore that makes black men look bad. I mean, I say no, because there's at least, I mentioned 5, but there's 6 strong black male characters in this movie. And even the real life one who did actually do her dirt, her husband who didn't come with her, they softened the hell out of that. They made it a heartbreak story. They made it romantically sad that he didn't come with her, instead of calling him a Tom or a sellout or cheating man. They just didn't tell the story that way. They chose a different way. Like, isn't it sad and isn't it, emotionally romantic that her husband doesn't come with her, and doesn't that don't that make her a woman? And that makes for a great film. And I don't have a problem. You know what I have a problem with? Is that Lincoln, which I love the performances in Lincoln, I love Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln. They didn't mention Frederick Douglass not one bit. There is no Frederick Douglass in the movie Lincoln.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, well, I didn't see it, so yeah, I'm going by what you told me, because you went at length about that one before.
I went at length about it. He is gone. His name is not brought up. There is no Lincoln. I mean, there's no Frederick Douglass in the Lincoln movie. That's something to get upset about. To totally leave out a significant character. They gave us a fictional.
Well, I'm sure these people probably complained about that too. Yeah. I'm not caping for it, because for the most part, look, we know who we are as men. I am not going to get all, don't get me wrong. I will have a gripe against Mississippi burning, because I just think that it was such a big, important event that to just have it as background for a good cop, bad cop. We know the FBI really, weren't that.
They weren't in our favor.
Yeah, exactly.
But weren't both of those detectives fictionalized characters?
I think they're fiction. I think they were fictionalized, and I think, I know that to a certain degree they probably had to torture some good old boys or whatever to do something. But for the most part, the FBI was not black people's friends.
They weren't our friends. But again, back to this notion of.
But again,
when you do a black historical story, everyone's looking for a reason to attack. And so one of the ways they want to attack is that somehow it has to be perfectly historical, or somehow it's a lie. I reject that. I reject it. You can make a film. It's not a documentary.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
A biography doesn't even equal documentary. It doesn't. There's biographies, and there's biographies that happen to be documentaries. But a biography doesn't even have to be. There's all sorts of crappy biographies that were historically not researched well. But when we do a black one, we're just like, ooh, if they just get one thing wrong, especially if they get one thing wrong that makes the black person look like, they were better than they were, then that, or in this case, the reverse, is getting upset about making a black man look worse than he is, then that's what's wrong with the film. I reject that. I absolutely want biographies to be entertaining. I like movies. I want to be entertained. I was entertained by Lincoln. I enjoyed the movie Lincoln, and we'll have to review it for this show later at another time. I enjoyed the movie Lincoln. I thought that was awesome. And this is the black experience in America, right? We love that. And we can't stand the fact that they left out the Lion of Anacostia. They left out Frederick Douglass, and that's just totally not cool. And I can say both things. I can accept both things to be true at the same time. A+, to me, F-, no Frederick Douglass.
Yeah, no, I guess to me, it's like I don't expect a movie to be 100% truthful. And if the choice is, I know there are things that need to be covered in the story. I know that there are things that can be added to make the story more interesting. So would I rather have had no big or long and no, I'm not saying this is probably a false equivalency, but would I rather have no big or long and no I'm sorry, who are we talking about again?
Harriet Tubman, big or long.
Harriet Tubman. If it was a matter of that or no movie, I'm more than willing to look. I'm sorry, in my car, I'm running out of. But if it's a matter
AC, put that AC on, man. Don't kill yourself.
Okay, give me
it's not
one
that
moment.
loud. They'll just have to get used to that. This is what we
yeah,
do.
no, I think it's a balance people need to make, and I honestly think that the closer that whether it's a Hollywood biopic or whatever, I think that the more historically accurate it is, to me, it strengthens it. If you're gonna add and if you're gonna add certain things, to me there needs to be a balance, and if the stuff to me is complementing the real life person or whatever, then I'm willing to go with it. If the changes are made to completely distort facts or whatever, then that's when I have a problem, especially when it's dealing with Black history, because we already have enough distortions.
I'm with you.
I think also just just in my opinion, just certain Black men just need to shut up, because sometimes when you have movies that are celebrating Black womanhood, okay, you may have a character who you're going to have a couple characters who you're not going to like. That's just get over it. Get over it.
Hey, I eventually liked Danny Glover. It took a while. He looked bad for a while. Hey, the Allstate guy from Waiting to Exhale, he looked bad for a while. It's like, hey man, you're gonna have to kiss some babies, maybe rescue a grandma from a burning building in a couple of these movies. She's gonna be Black too. You have to do a movie called Mother's Day, and you have to come home and bring all sorts of presents to your mama, because after Waiting to Exhale, and after Color Purple, and those two actors, boy, they made me feel bad about them.
Yeah.
But I hear your point, and I'm gonna let you have the last word, and then we'll we'll close this episode on that.
Okay.
About us talking about Harriet. The last thing I guess I want to say about it is it's worth watching, folks. The trailer is don't help you see how triumphant it is. Her life story is awesome. The closing sequence of the film will make you want to find out more. One of her harrowing triumphs is a throwaway at the end of the film. It'll make you want to go look it up and find out for yourself. She lived in 91. She did a whole lot, and they don't even cover all that in this film.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I would say the same thing. I mean, I was glad that the movie came out. Please bear in mind whenever you see this or any historical movie that she's definitely somebody that was worth a celebration. She was, in essence, if you're able to see others quote unquote superhero movies, this woman deserved one. But also keep in mind, nothing beats a good book. So I mean, look, get some information. And then also, don't let it be the end of your Harriet journey. Let it be the beginning.
That's right.
And
get her $20 bill. That's another thing. This film should have been 100% advertisement for her $20 bill, which was supposed to be released in this year, but got delayed. Well,
yeah, you know why?
Got delayed. It should have been the crying calling card. It should have been the motion picture advertisement to make you drive out to say, "Where's my 20 for Harriet?" Instead, like a lot of things here in this nation, it didn't get the blockbuster effect. I was nominated for 2 Oscars. This was also an opportunity for the EGOT. The lead character for it was just an Oscar away from the EGOT, is my understanding, because she co-wrote and sang the theme song, which was announced, and then she was nominated for Best Actress. So she got 2 nominations, but she didn't win either. And she only needed 1. They could have given her for the Best Soundtrack, and then she have hers. So soon. She's so talented, it's got to happen. So anyway, I'm Jeff Johnson.
All right, Claude, here.
See you guys next time.
See ya.